I am not Johnnette Williams. As those of you who are watching on YouTube and Facebook Live have already discerned, and those of you now hearing the sound of my voice understand that I am not Johnnette Williams. I am merely Jack Williams. So I'm sitting in for Johnnette today on this Wacky Wednesday. Fear not, we are not going to deprive you of your Sue Brinkman fix. We will be exploring the wild and the wacky as we go along here today. Johnnette was at an event yesterday in the great state of Mississippi. Our good friend Kitty Cleveland, who many of you will be familiar with, she's a very talented recording artist in the Catholic world. And during the pandemic, Kitty started a group that prayed the rosary on Zoom. And it grew and grew and grew, and she has over 3,000 women that will duck into that rosary in the morning from time to time. And any given morning, she'll have 300 or 400 ladies praying this rosary, and they call themselves the Morning Glories. And so last year, out of the pandemic, she started having a little event for them to get together, and this was the second event that she's had, and she had Johnnette come over to the great state of Mississippi to a beautiful retreat center there, and they had a lovely event with 500 ladies yesterday. And one of Johnnette's staff members, Denise McCain, the lovely and talented Denise McCain, came up from Florida to help work the informational tables and things for Women of Grace. And so while Denise is in town, Johnnette wanted to take her to the Shrine of the Most Blessed Sacrament, visit Mother's final resting place and everything that she built there in Hanceville, so they're about that today. And I'm sitting in with the real Sue Brinkman. And, you know, we call her the real Sue Brinkman. I don't know if anyone's ever told this story on the air before or not. But Matt Gubensky, our call screener extraordinaire, back in the day, before he became a seminarian, on a Wacky Wednesday, was screening phone calls. And someone called in and wanted to know who the woman was with Johnnette on the air. And he told him it was Sue Brinkman. And the caller's response to that was, the real Sue Brinkman? So apparently there's a pseudo Sue Brinkman out there somewhere. So she has been dubbed by us from that moment on as the real Sue Brinkman. Couple of things I want to get you up to speed on with regard to comings and goings and doings and events and things that are happening at Women of Grace. The big one is the 20th anniversary pilgrimage, 20th anniversary of Women of Grace. Who would have thought? 20 years of Women of Grace. And, you know, Women of Grace exists partially under the patronage of Our Lady of Guadalupe, who's the patron of the Americas as well. So no better place to go than Mexico City during the month of December. So on December 8th, the Feast of the Immaculate Conception, the pilgrimage will begin. Everybody will meet in Mexico City, and we'll have a Mass that evening for the Feast of the Immaculate Conception. And then during the course of the next several days, they're in Mexico. Johnnette's there. Kathleen Beckman is there, who has written a book on Blessed Conchita. If you don't know who Blessed Conchita is, this is somebody that you're going to want to get to know. She is Conchita Cabrera de Armida. And she is as good an example of a wife and mother and a saintly, holy person as you'll ever find, a mystic, voluminous writing. This woman is a very prolific author, and we'll get to visit the places where she lived and the places where she walked and talked. And Kathleen, who's done a lot of research on her, will be able to help illustrate that trip for us. Father Leonard and Father Joseph from the Franciscan Missionaries of the Eternal Word will be joining us on the trip. They'll be our spiritual directors. We'll be filming an episode of Women of Grace while we're there, so you'll get to see that. You might become part of that. So it's all starting December 8th, and if you just go to the Women of Grace website, womenofgrace.com, and click on the upcoming events, you can find out all the details and register and join us. I know it's getting close to being full. I don't think it's full yet. I probably should have found that out before I promoted it, but I don't think it's full. So I think there's still some room for you. So jump out there and grab that. And then also, starting on September 18th, a beautiful book study on a book called Fire Within by Father Thomas Dubé of happy memory, Father Thomas Dubé has a gift for making the the deep, rich teachings of Holy Mother Church accessible to we, the lay people. He makes very, very difficult and complicated concepts simpler, breaks them down into bite-sized pieces for us. And this book is full of that. St. John of the Cross and St. Teresa of Avila, two of the spiritual mystics of the Carmelite order. And Sue Brinkman, who is a Third Order Carmelite, as you all know, will also be leading that book study. So no better person than a fellow Carmelite to help walk us through that. It'll be from 7 p.m. to 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time on Monday evenings. And again, that kicks off on September 18th. So be sure to check out that in the upcoming events as well at womenofgrace.com. And then on September 15th, 16th, and 17th, that's Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Johnnette and I will be conducting a marriage retreat at Malvern, at the Malvern Retreat Center in suburban Philadelphia, in Malvern, Pennsylvania. We've been married 5 years. This is the 5th year that they've seen fit to have us back to do this retreat. We're delighted to do it. And a big, big treat this year, we're bringing Father Wade Menezes, the priest who kind of walked us through our engagement and through our formation, preparing for our marriage, and actually was the celebrant at our nuptial mass. Father Wade will be joining us for the weekend, so it's going to be a very, very special time there in Malvern, Pennsylvania. And you can log on to their website, the Malvern Retreat House website, which is malvernretreat.com. That's MALVERN retreat.com, and all the details and the ability to register will be there. We do, as I mentioned, have with us the real Sue Brinkman, and she has a whole bevy of wacky things for us to discuss. And Sue, do you want to give us just a little sneak preview of what you're going to be talking about on the rest of Wacky Wednesday?
Oh, well, we've had a lot of wacky news that's been breaking right now around the world. Sinead O'Connor, the officiant at her funeral, was called a dingle druid and a hedge witch.
Not a priest, huh?
No. A dingle druid and a hedge witch. So we're going to talk about that because we had a lot of questions about that. Like, what is that? So I had to go look that up. Good for me, right? Yeah. So, and then of course, right after that, we had Meghan Markle showing up in a parking lot in Los Angeles, wearing a strange blue disc on her wrist that was supposedly is this new contraption that can help you to be calm and collected and all that kind of stuff. And all it is just, hey, $80 for a pack of 20 of these things. Wear them once, throw them out. So we're going to be talking about all this goofy stuff.
Follow the money. Follow the money. So stick around. It's Wacky Wednesday with the real Sue Brinkman here on Women of Grace.
Pray the Rosary with Father Benedict Rochelle in a beautiful and reverent recording of The Rosary is a Place, with meditations by Father Rochelle and original music and lyrics by Simonetta. Visit EWTNRC.com today.
By providing quality programming faithful to the teachings of the Catholic Church, EWTN Television is TV that viewers can trust. Whether it's films, documentaries, news coverage, lively discussion shows, or kids programs, we highlight the truth that is the eternal Word. For a complete schedule of EWTN television programs, visit EWTN.com and click TV. EWTN is the Global Catholic Network.
Welcome to Catholic Blitz. Father Trujillo, you're in the hot seat today. Ooh. Ready for a question?
I am.
Okay. Who were the Virgin Mary's parents? And you got 1 minute to go.
Jesus' grandparents. Okay, no, seriously. It's in the non-biblical book called the Proto-Evangelium of St. James, or the Gospel of St. James. It's not part of the Bible. It's not considered inspired, authentic text. However, in that book, we have the names of Saints Joachim and Anne. And we believe those were the legitimate names of Mary's parents. Now, the reason why it's not part of the Bible is because the Church considers it non-inspired, But just because it's not inspired does not mean it's considered non-factual, because Julius Caesar's commentary on the Gallic Wars is considered factual, but it's not inspired text. Mary's parents, Joachim and Anne.
Great job. I didn't even have to remind you. Okay, tune in for another episode of Catholic Blitz.
Apple TV allows you to instantly stream your favorite EWTN television and radio shows to your TV. All you need is a high-speed internet connection, a TV, and the Apple TV player.
Well, that music can mean only one thing. It is Wacky Wednesday with the real Sue Brinkman. We want to invite you to be part of the program. Give us a call, 833-288. EWTN, if I can get it out, 833-288-3986. There we go. If pick up the phone and give us a call to be part of the program. You can also send us an email, of course, at womenofgrace@EWTN.com. Sue, it's wacky. It's Wednesday. Take it.
Oh, yeah, I'll tell you what, it's just rolling in this week. It's just one big week for breaking news. It's all wacky. One of the top ones was about the hedge witch that officiated at the funeral of Sinead O'Connor. And, you know, Sinead O'Connor, she had such a tragic life. She died at only 56 years old. They have not given out the cause of her death, but police do say it is not suspicious. But she struggled with, you know, her whole life with mental illness. Then she lost her 17-year-old son in 2022 to suicide. And she tried committing suicide herself several times. So this was a very, very, very troubled woman. She did become a Muslim. So that explains why there was also a Muslim officiant, a cleric who was there at this. But the main officiant was a woman named Julie Malone. And she is also known as Julie Ni Mahalian, the Dingle Druid.
Easy for you to say.
No, it's not actually. But anyway, Dingle actually is a place in Ireland, so I guess that's what that means. And a druid. Druids were people, it was a religion, an ancient religion, whose adherents believed that they serve as intermediaries between the gods and man. And the Druids were mostly known for their very bloody sacrifices and that. So, of course, the modern day Druids don't have anything to do with that, but they are still out there. But she was also referred to herself as a hedge witch. And a hedge witchery, that is really hundreds of years old. It's a branch of witchcraft. And originated really with the witches of old, who tended to live along the borders of villages, typically behind the hedgerows. And that's how they got the name hedge into that. So one side of the hedge would be the village and the civilization, and the other lay the unknown and the wild. And so these witches would kind of like sit there right on that border. So they would serve a purpose, the hedge witches, as healers, or they were just cunning women. And they were very involved with herbs and plant magic. That's really what they were into, herbal magic. And that's based on a belief that plants contain elemental powers, natural energies that can be harnessed in magical spells. They put it into oils, charms. And they also, some of them will choose to work with gods or goddesses or incorporate shamanism into the craft. So hedge witchery is eclectic, just like all of witchcraft is. You know, witches were pretty much anyone who says they're a witch. There's like really no guidelines into what is a witch and what is not a witch. So they can be whatever they want.
There are no witch seminaries, is what you're saying?
Right, and there's no witch churches. I mean, their unofficial church is the internet. That's where they meet. They do have covens. They do meet in covens and that sort of thing. But so that's what a hedge witch is. And she was officiating at this particular ceremony for Sinead O'Connor for her burial. And people just wanted to know, well, what is that? They never heard of that. What is a Dingle Druid? As I said, Dingle is a place in Ireland, and she refers to herself that way. She calls herself a ceremonialist, Malone does. And that's so she can combine, she says, the ancient lore of plants with the healing power and wisdom of the Druids. So I guess she thinks she's finding healing power and wisdom from Druids. I hadn't heard that before, but she is.
So what are these plants and herbs going to do for an already deceased Sinead O'Connor?
The answer to that question is nothing. They're not going to do anything for her. Really, what Sinead needs is prayer at this point. Prayer to God that her soul might be saved, because this dingle druid really didn't do anything for her now that she's deceased. So that's a good question to bring up, Jack. It really is. It's important that we pray for people who are caught up in all this. I'm sure that Sinead agreed with all these things. Otherwise, she wouldn't have been there, wouldn't have been the ceremonialist at her funeral. And she was really the main attraction there. So, yeah, that was one of the news stories.
Well, Sue, before we get off of that, there are well-intentioned people that will be casually listening to this, who will say, there are plants and extracts that actually have good health benefits. So get off my plants.
Right, and that's true. And plants are, and actually, herbal medicine is probably the most scientifically proven of any of the alternatives are herbs, and that's because a lot of our medicines come from them. So you're absolutely right. There's nothing wrong with them, but assigning magical powers to them, now you're crossing a line. Now you're crossing a line. Now, you can use certain herbs, as I said, are used in medicine. Of course, they have to be synthesized in such a way that the body can use them. People used herbal medicine throughout since time immemorial. But remember, until science came along and figured out how to actually use them in a way that the body could benefit from them, they were dying by the time they were 40 or 45 years old. That was their lifespan. So just to take an herb isn't going to help you necessarily for anything serious. You would need to have something that was better prepared for that purpose. But anyway, the herbs, which she's talking about here, hedge witchery, believes in harnessing powers from these plants and that they can be put into magical spells. And we all know where magical spells originated, and that's people who are turning to the powers of Satan. And they're calling upon powers that are not sourced in God in order to make something come about, either to bring about a love interest or to bring about, bring a curse, to put a curse on people. This is what, magic spells are intended to do. So, and she's into all that, being a hedge witch.
So one other question about this. Is there anything that we cannot incorporate shamanism into these days?
No. Good question. Nothing. I mean, it's in everything. Everybody's just all into this whole thing, animistic type belief that there's a soul and a consciousness in every living being, be it a plant, a tree, a bird, animals, whatever. They just want to believe in that's animism, and that's what shamanism is, of course, based in, is in animism, which of course is not even remotely Christian. Plus, there's no evidence that there is any consciousness in a plant or anything like that. I mean, this is what we were talking about this last week on the show, Akashic Records. They claim that they store every experience that was ever had from any living thing from the beginning to the end of time, and they store it in this magical, mystical place somewhere that can only be accessed through certain types of meditation and that sort of thing. So in other words, plants, you could find out the life of a rhododendron by opening up the Akashic Records. This is all stuff that's been made up. It's been made up. Maybe the people are well-intentioned. I read a lot of these websites because I have to. That's my job. But I look at the people, and a lot of them really are very well-intentioned, Jack. They really want to help people. It's just that they're way off the mark and don't realize that they're really not helping them in the long run. They might give them momentary hope, but hey, that hope's going to run out. And what's going to happen? They're going to be even more down than they were when they started. So anyway, a lot of, I'm not saying it because they're bad people or they're evil. And this hedge witch, I'm sure doesn't want to be evil, although she's consorting with it. We want to give people the benefit of the doubt, but you certainly don't want to follow after them and believe in what they're doing. Druidry is not compatible with Christianity, nor is hedge witchery or any kind of witchcraft is not compatible with Christianity.
Pick up the phone and give us a call at 833-288-EWTN. That's 833-288-3986. Sue Brinkman, I can't turn around without running into Meghan Markle.
I know. And do you ever notice how she's always wearing coats? Like in the middle of August in LA. I'm thinking, why do you have a coat on? But anyway, she had a picture with a coat on, and she had her arm up in such a way that you could see this little blue disc on her wrist. And everybody was buzzing about this. What is on her wrist? What does she have on her wrist? And it's called now get ready for this, Newcom Biosignal Processing Disc, which is a bunch of
What happened to the old calm?
Yeah. No, it has to be the new kind now,
Okay.
Jack. Come on now. It's got to be the new stuff. And it's said to contain a tiny Tesla coil, which is a type of electric circuit that was designed by Tesla in 1891. But the company claims that the discs are clinically proven now, here's the big words, to emit waves mimicking the natural frequencies of neurotransmitters in the body, such as gamma aminobutyric acid, or GABA, as it's called, and L-theanine. And according to its makers, it simplifies the process of activating the parasympathetic nervous system, which calms us down, and it taps into the body's pericardium meridian with particular electromagnetic frequencies. This is the kind of woo that they put out there on the website, and people are going to think, hey, this sounds like really scientific, doesn't it, Jack? I mean,
well, where was this stuff 5 years ago when she was losing her mind?
yes, that's a good question. Oh, you're good today, Jack. I'm telling you, you're on top of your game today. Yes, I'm telling you, she's wearing this to stay calm. Now, these little patches or stickers, they have to be placed on, here was the big red flag for me, pericardium 6 acupuncture point. That's where it has to be put. And that's the same point that's used to relieve nausea and vomiting, because traditional Chinese medicine believes that spot is also connected to the heart. So you do a special measurement 3 finger lengths below the wrist or whatever, and you come to this magic spot, and then you put that disc on it, and that disc, you stick it on there, and it contains energy for 2 to 4 hours, and you can't reuse it. So you're paying.
Of course you can't reuse it.
For 20 of them is $80 for 20 of these things. So it's not even a month's supply for $80. And for a pack of 100, it's $400. So, and it's supposedly going to help you sleep. It's going to help you do everything except, just shy of cured cancer. It's another one of these things that, they put all of this scientific sounding woo in the explanation of it that most people can't figure that stuff out. I couldn't even tell you what this means. And it's
well, did I read
this? Fool people.
Did I read this correctly that the claim is that by utilizing these discs, you can get the benefit of 2 hours of sound sleep from a 20-minute nap?
Yeah, that's one of the many claims that it makes. Yes, you can. Yeah.
Well, there's no wonder people sign up, that's for sure.
Yeah, well, of course they are now. I mean, the minute Meghan Markle was spotted in that parking lot and the picture was out there, it was right on the company's Instagram page, and they're offering a special discount now. They didn't call it the Meghan Markle discount, but that's what it is. And all these deals that they're going to make with you if you try it. And
well, she's not the only one either. They've got Tony Robbins in the stable, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, there's another red flag. Boy, that's a red sheet flapping in the wind there. This guy, self-help guru, right? He's struggling to rebuild his brand after multiple claims of sexually abusing his followers.
Yeah, I was going to say,
you have
self-help, others harm.
Yeah. Yeah, I like that. Self-help, others harm. But I mean, he hasn't been accused. He hasn't really been charged with anything yet, so we can't jump the gun there. But he has been. There are multiple claims out there against him. And then you have Michael Galitzer, or Galitzer, however you want to say that name. He's an expert in New Age energy medicine. Oh, another red flag. Who has worked with Gwyneth Paltrow's notorious Gloop blog. The Goop blog has been fined in the past for making unscientific claims about its product. So if these are the endorsements, I would watch out about that. Now, they did have one of the articles that I cited in here, a neurologist from King's College in London, and he said that the science behind all the technology that these people are talking about with this little thing is very weak. And he said, although there's some evidence that the body's acoustic signals can be used to regulate brain waves, The new calm sticker claim of being able to deliver the benefits of 2 hours of sleep in just 20 minutes sounds suspiciously like pseudoscience, is what he said. And then he added there, when you've got Tony Robbins as your main proponent, that has to ring some alarm bells. So, but Meghan was spotted wearing it, and everybody does what Meghan does. I mean, she was spotted wearing a hamster hand charm, which is the charm that supposedly is going to help to ward off evil eye spells or curses on people. People rushed out and they bought that. They buy everything she wears. So this is just what people do, Jack. They don't really use a lot of discernment, I guess. I'm not sure about that.
Well, I think, Sue, that the one thing that it really illustrates is and listen, we make light of this to a certain extent because, quite frankly, it's funny, some of it. But what shouldn't get lost here is that it really illustrates the degree to which, we're a broken world and we're a world full of people that are just desperately crying out for help.
Yes, we are. We're looking for something. We're so starved to fill that part of ourselves that has been left hungry and desperate for food because we're filling it with junk food. We threw away Jesus Christ, and now we're filling it with all kinds of junk food. And it does to our spirit exactly what happens to the body when you eat too much junk food. It's not healthy for us, and it's really bringing people down. Look at the rates of suicide and depression in this country. I think a lot of that has to do, it's spiritual. A lot of it has to do with the fact that we've just tossed away the healing power of Jesus Christ, the greatest healer who ever walked the earth. And they're going for, new calm patches and hedge witchery. I mean, come on, it doesn't make sense. It really doesn't make sense. It's sad. It's very sad.
833-288-EWTN. That's our toll-free number. It is a free telephone call for you anywhere in North America. 833-288-3986. Straight ahead, we'll talk to Dolores in Virginia, Diane in Massachusetts, Dennis in the great state of New York, and we've got plenty of time for your phone calls as well. Pick up the phone and give us a call. The number's 833-288-EWTN. That's 833-288-3986. If you're outside the United States and Canada, it's a wacky world out there everywhere. We would love to hear from you. That number is 1-205-271-2985. And we will even put you straight to the front of the line if you give us a call at 1-205-271-2985. And you can always send us an email. That email address, womenofgrace@EWTN.com. That's Women of Grace, all one word, at EWTN.com. It's a Wacky Wednesday here on Women of Grace. Jack Williams sitting in today for my lovely wife, Johnnette Williams. Pray for safe travels for her and her associate as they head to the Shrine of the Most Blessed Sacrament. Back in just a minute.
Here's today's quote from Mother Angelica's perpetual calendar. I think we look for excuses not to pray and not to ponder. We can find them by the droves, but we don't have any excuse. Mother's spiral-bound perpetual calendar features an inspirational message for each day of the year. It's available from the EWTN Religious Catalog at EWTNRC.com. That's EWTNRC.com or call 1-800-854-6316.
This is a Messy Family Minute with Mike and Alicia Hernon.
Parents need to deal with the wounds of our past, or they may make themselves known in ways we do not expect. It takes effort and time to learn how to address the things that bother or affect us, especially the things that happen to us as children.
The first step in dealing with our wounds is to own your own story. Acknowledge the things that happened to you or around you that affected you. These things are reality. They happened and we can't change them. What we can change is how they affect us moving forward.
When you feel anxious or bothered by something, get curious. Ask yourself why you feel that way. We should take these moments to prayer, asking the Lord to reveal what's happening so we can deal with the wounds and get help from a priest or therapist if needed. we can then take responsibility for our responses to that wound and move on in a way that doesn't pass the burden of our wounds on to our children.
For more insights on this, listen to our podcast on healthy people make great families at messyfamilyminute.org.
The doctor is in.
EWTN Pro-Life Weekly.
Open Line Thursday.
The Sunrise Morning Show.
No one does Catholic radio like EWTN.
Matt Swaim here. Join Anna Mitchell and me on the Sunrise Morning Show as we give you the latest news, weather, sports, and everything you need to bring your Catholic faith into your everyday life. Now back to Women of Grace with Johnnette Williams.
The Women of Grace phone lines are open. 1-833-288-EWTN. 1-833-288-3986.
You can rely on CNA to cover the mission and activities of the Catholic Church, including social, political, moral, and cultural issues from a perspective of faith. For the latest Catholic news, visit CatholicNewsAgency.com. It's an online service from EWTN News, and you can get timely news updates directly to your email inbox. Visit EWTN.com and click on subscribe. To the phones we go. First up today is Dolores in Bristol, Virginia, listening on Sirius XM Channel 130. Dolores, you are on with the real Sue Brinkman.
Yes, I've been thinking about calling so many times, but this is the trouble. I'm calling because I have relatives in Ireland whom I love so much, but they're in their 50s, 60s, and even up to the 90s. But the younger ones, the 50s, 60s, are into yoga, and I don't know if it's Tai Chi or something. There's some kind of Eastern, Far Eastern exercises and so on that really tend to give you the spirit and the energy and all that. And when they talk to me about that, I just cringe because I know that isn't good, and they're Catholic, but they don't relate it to being anti-Catholic. They think this energy and the spirit comes into them and gives them the proper thinking and perspective, and also healing too. One of the girls has cancer, and she goes to a healer. And, I want to scream and say, don't do that. Take it to prayer. And I do, I send prayer cards to them to have masses said for the ones who are sick. But, and they thank me for it. But it troubles me because they're so into this, and they have been for years. And I don't know how to deal with it. I don't say anything, which is probably wrong on my part. So what can I do to change their mind? Nothing. Or
Dolores.
Can I do something?
Well, first of all, you're praying for them is the most important thing that you can do, because to a certain extent, Dolores, you can't really change their hearts. That's something that the Holy Spirit does. And that's why prayer is so very, very important. It's the most powerful thing that you can do to try to change somebody's heart. You leave that up to God, because you don't really know what's going on in their hearts and their souls. You really don't know that. He does. And that's why, the more that you pray for them by sending them those cards and things like that, that's a wonderful thing to do. Also, to have masses said for them. To have masses said for the living is a very powerful thing to do. Now, if it ever were to come up in conversation, and you could perhaps talk to them about some of these things, you could try just by educating yourself on different matters. And you can do that at our New Age Q&A blog. We have 1,600 some entries in there, all kinds of things that, especially on yoga. There's several dozen articles on yoga that you could peruse yourself, and just maybe just make yourself aware of different things, so that if it does come up in conversation, you can speak about it, forthrightly and intelligently, and in a way that might get their attention. The other thing too is the energy that they're into. What a lot of people don't understand is this energy is that they're talking about in New Age things, in traditional Chinese medicine, the yin and yang, the prana, chi, ki, universal life force. This has nothing to do with veritable energies of the body. And people don't understand that. There's a difference between that monochromatic radiation, electromagnetic, electrical things that go on within the human body. That's known as veritable energy. That's what's used, say, in CAT scans and MRIs. But what they're talking about, chi and ki and prana, is putative energy. Okay, there is no scientific proof that it even exists. So this energy, this is why acupuncture and different Reiki and that sort of things that are based in the manipulation of these energy forces don't really work. Acupuncture, people say, yes, it does, it works, but it works for a different reason. It has nothing to do with energy flowing through the meridians in the body. It has to do with stimulating pain-releasing endorphins in the body by pricking the skin with needles. So it's a whole different thing than what they're talking about, but most people don't understand that. They don't understand that the energy they're talking about really doesn't exist. There's no science behind it. They're not being healed by it. They might think they're being healed by it. And there's a lot of different reasons why they might think that they are. We even have blogs about that out there, Dolores, that you could take a look at. You just go to newage.womenofgrace.com. And that'll bring you right to the index, and just scroll down there and look for something that they might have brought up in a conversation, and just educate yourself about these things. But don't quit the prayer. That's the most important thing.
I'll never quit.
Yeah, and don't chastise yourself for not speaking, because sometimes it's just not the right time to speak, and you need to speak when the Spirit prompts you to speak.
Right. And I love them. I want to reach out to them, but they're nurses and doctors, and in the family, and oh my God, and they were deep in the faith many years ago, but then they went to like healers or not fortune, something like fortune telling. They'd read the teacups and we all did that in fun. Well, I did that in fun when I was young, really in my 20s. But all of a sudden I found out that it is not, the church frowns on that, because in some way you don't take it as fun. You kind of take these things seriously, and then it just muddles in your mind, and it can get to you. And I stopped because I was afraid that I would do something to offend God, and that and I've talked about it with them when I visited. But now it's just phone conversations back and forth, and it's hard. And thank you for talking to me, because I didn't know how to deal with it, and I love these people so much with all my heart. And sometimes I see some of my own kids; they're getting into this when they contact the dead.
Yes, mediumship. Yeah.
Yes, right. And I think, no, don't do that. Don't do that. It's just dangerous, and it scares me. But you know what? They figure, oh, that's just me, talking. Oh, you're kind of religious. But you know what? I'm not really. I mean, I love our Lord. This stuff is dangerous because something can enter into them and lead them on the wrong way, on the wrong path. So thanks for hearing me out, because I didn't know who to talk to.
I'm so glad that you called us, because we understand that here. That's why we have Wacky Wednesday, to have a place for people to call with questions just like this. And the fact that you said that a lot of these relatives are doctors and nurses kind of gave me a little flicker of hope there, If you were to forward them some of those articles, maybe, being scientific in their inclination, maybe they would listen to that, because these are, the National Institutes of Health. I mean, these are places that have written about this putative type of energy that people are going for. And they've written about what's wrong with it and how it's not scientific. Maybe that would move them to a certain extent. But really, Dolores, you're doing all the right things by praying for them, by loving them and continuing to love them, to keeping those channels of communication open, because you never know when something's going to happen. The occult is never friendly for long. And if they're dabbling around in mediumship, that's direct contact with the occult. It's not going to last forever. This is just how Satan operates. He makes people like us look like, wild-eyed fanatics. And it works just fine, doesn't it? Everybody dismisses us and everything. We're saying, oh, yeah, they see a demon behind every tree. Well, that's because there is a demon behind every tree. And you need to have your eyes open and be able to see evil, because our world right now is saturated in it. Just turn on the news and watch it for 3 minutes, and you'll find that out. So we got to pray. That's the best thing we can do, because we need the power of God in these situations. And I think that your love for them and your prayer for them, Dolores, don't sell that short. You're doing a lot more good than you think you are, just by doing that.
God bless you, Dolores. We appreciate the phone call today. That opens up a line for you at 833-288-EWTN. That's 833-288-3986. Next stop for us is Worcester, Mass. And Diane is in Worcester listening to the station of the Cross. Diane, you're on with Sue Brinkman.
Hi, Sue. I had a question about TTAP. I looked at the website, and I thought it was okay until I started reviewing more videos. And what's coming on TTAP is mindfulness, and also, I can't even pronounce this, Anjali yoga and wellness. So it's kind of incorporated into this exercise, as well as Pilates now used to be a safe place to go, but it seems like they're incorporating the exercises, and I don't know what to do, because I know the TTAP was in the 80s, but it's obvious that maybe, I don't know, people have kind of taken over and used that and incorporate yoga with it. I guess my question is, there's some people that are involved in yoga, and what would be an alternative safe exercise? And it's very confusing.
It is, Diane. And I think what you've come across here is the incorporation of yoga by particular instructors. TTAP, as it was developed by Teresa Tapp, this was many years ago now, had nothing to do with yoga. It was not just an isometric exercise. It was also, she uses compound muscle movement and that sort of thing with isometrics in there. So it has nothing to do with yoga. Pilates is the same thing. That's an isometric type of an exercise, but you'll have people out there, instructors, who mix Pilates with yoga, and they call it yoga lattes.
Right.
It depends a lot of times on the instructor, or if you're using, TTAP videos, whoever is making that video might be into that and is incorporating these things into it. But TTAP itself was never designed to have anything to do with yoga. Now, if you wanted to do something yoga-free, like for stretching or for something like that, Eccentrics is yoga-free. At least a lot of their stuff is yoga-free. And also Soulcore is another one. That's a very good exercise. In fact, I have some Soulcore. I do some Soulcore exercises from time to time. Very, very difficult core workout. Eccentrics is more like there's different levels of Eccentrics. So I'm not sure what you do exercises for, if it's for balance, if it's for stretching, whatever it is you might be using it for. Eccentrics probably does have something that you could use instead. And I'll tell you, Diane, if you can't seem to find any TTAP that's just plain TTAP, or Pilates that's just plain Pilates, then you have to give it up and stay away from it.
Right.
That's what I would do.
Yes. Thank you so much, Sue, for everything you do. You're a wealth of information and such a blessing to the body of Christ. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much for that, Diane. Thank you.
God bless you, Diane. We appreciate the phone call today. 833-288-EWTN is our toll-free number, 833-288-3986. If you're coming to the Birmingham area for EWTN's free family celebration, you may want to stay a little bit longer, because there's an awful lot to do right here in Birmingham. We've got an amazing botanical garden, the Barber Vintage Motorsports Museum, craft breweries, the Birmingham Zoo, sporting events, and so much more. Just go to EWTN.com/family celebration to find out more and to register. Dennis is in Westchester, New York today, listening on Sirius XM Channel 130. Dennis, you're on with Sue Brinkman.
Sue, great show today. And before I ask you this question, I would ask you to remember my private prayer intentions tonight before you go to bed.
I will do that.
Thank you, Sue. Sue, great show. Talking about Sinead O'Connor's witch, Meghan Markle's crystals. I see so many young people that are Catholics that look at horoscopes in the daily newspapers, and they look at it every day for guidance. I must have told 100 young persons, what is the first commandment? And they all look a little confused. I catch them off guard. And half of them don't know. I said, thou shalt not worship false gods. I have been on a crusade asking men's groups that I speak to send in letters to local magazines or newspapers that run horoscopes on a daily basis that it's the work of the devil and not to do it. And I don't know, Sue, can we ask the Council of Bishops maybe to set up an office or someone to go out and see if we can get rid of these horoscopes? It's astrology, which is another voice for the evil one. And it takes people away from God and that first commandment. So I'd love to hear your thoughts on it. And Sue, thanks for everything you do for our faith. And the Holy Spirit moved me today listening to you. I know you affected a lot of people in this last 45 minutes that you've been on the air. Thank you, Sue.
Dennis. Thank you, Dennis. You know, as far as that, I would love to have a little bit more activity from our church on this whole subject. To set up a special office, not just to go after astrology. There's a lot of stuff out there, Dennis, and I'm sure you agree with that. A lot of stuff out there that we need to be educating the faithful about these things. It is starting, within the church. They are starting to take a little bit more seriously what's going on, especially the influx of the occult into this. This is very dangerous for people to be involved in, youngsters in particular, especially middle school. That age group is very much infiltrated with what's called occult fiction. It's a whole genre now that all it does is it's all fiction about the occult. And introduces kids to magic and spells and cursing and cursing other people. And it's really very, very sad. And I do think that our church does need to do something more about it. We do have many writings on the subject, especially of astrology and horoscope. John Paul came out and spoke against it and said, really, if you want to look for guidance in your life, you should look to God for that guidance, not to look to the stars. The other thing you might want to mention to people is that astrology is not based on any kind of science now. It's not astronomy. They only base things on 5 planets. They leave all the rest of them out, and they use them as wild cards so that the different astronomers can just pick and choose what they want them to be. It's totally meaningless. Astrology is totally, but a lot of people don't understand that, and that's why they read it. They read what's in the newspaper about them. In France, there was a statistician, and he sent out the horoscope of one of the worst serial killers in the history of France to 150 people and asked them if they thought that, what they thought about that. And 90% of them wrote back and said that they believed it was describing them. Now, what does that say about horoscopes? This was a serial killer. And they send his the horoscope for this serial killer out there, and everybody was saying, yeah, that I relate to that. That sounds just like me. So the whole thing is woo. It's been going on. I think it's one of the oldest scams known to mankind is astrology, and looking at the stars and thinking the stars are going to hold some kind of secret for you. They just don't. They don't really even have a whole lot of from a scientific point of view, the planets don't do anything to us. The moon has some minimal impact on the Earth, but the planets don't have any. So it's a constellation of stars, nothing. There just simply is nothing behind it. It's just all what's ever in your mind. But yes, Dennis, if they could set something up, it would never hurt to send a letter asking them to pay more attention, please, to the influx of the New Age and the occult into our faith and our culture. in whatever way they deem necessary. We let the Holy Spirit guide the church, but just suggest to them and say to them that you're concerned about how you see this infiltration in the world around you, in your family, and in your community. And is there something more that we can do to educate the public about these subjects? So, Dennis, great suggestion, and let's keep each other in prayer for sure. And I'll remember your special intention tonight at my holy hour for sure.
So quickly, we'll head to Georgia, in Vancouver, watching us today on YouTube. Georgia, you're on with Sue Brinkman.
Hi, Sue. How are you?
Very good, thank you.
We're having a heat wave here in Vancouver. My question is, you said to pray for, what's her name? Shania O'Connor?
Sinead O'Connor, yes.
Yeah. And she's a witch. Now, I believe, from what I understood from reading some stuff and watching some movies, that witches give their souls to the devil. And that's what makes them a witch. They're possessed, by the devil. They marry him. Now, when you die like that, are we supposed to pray for them? Or I'm confused. Can you explain that, please?
Yes, Georgia. Thank you. That's a very, very good question. Actually, witchcraft is not necessarily requiring people to sell their soul to the devil. There's many, many branches of witchcraft. Many of them are goddess related. They are earth related. They're really into just environmental type causes and stuff like that. A lot of them aren't even involved in magic. They don't get involved in that sort of thing either. So we really can't make a judgment about this person and her soul and what the state of it was, whether or not she renounced Christ. We really don't know that. But I'll tell you what, George, if you were to say a prayer for her, regardless of what her state of soul was and if she was with the Lord or not with the Lord, just say that prayer. It's not gonna be a waste of a prayer. Jesus will use it somewhere else if he can't use it for Sinead. So always pray for them. Don't judge their souls. We don't know what went on with them. We don't know what their relationship was with Jesus. She might have just, decided to discard Christianity and do something else and without really doing anything official like renouncing Christ or anything like that. So we really can't make that decision. And also, as I said, witchcraft is very eclectic, and we can't make a general statement that they all worship the devil, because they don't all worship the devil.
No, but I'm talking about witches, not witchcraft. When somebody decides to be a witch, they have to renounce Jesus Christ.
Yeah. Well, I think the bottom line, Sue, is we can never presume the state of someone's soul at the moment of their death.
Right. We can't, even with a witch, and also with witches too, Georgia. There's a lot of witches out there that would really fight with you over that and say, I never renounced Christ. No, I didn't. There's a lot of witches out there who think they can be a witch and be Christian too. I've come across that. Believe it or not, Georgia, I've come across that out there. They actually think they can be Christian and practice witchcraft. So it's just very eclectic. It's very difficult to just make a general statement like that about them. But I think what Jack said, is right, is we just can't presume to know what the state of her soul was. And I would say, please pray for them. And I pray daily for the people who are involved in anything with the occult and the New Age, that the Lord will save them.
And Michelle in Gretna, Louisiana, if you'll check out Sue's blog at newage.womenofgrace.com. She has some things that will explain to you what makes acupuncture New Age and why it's not good for you. You can find that all right there at the blog. Sue, thanks for being so gracious with your time.
Oh, happy to be here.
Johnnette will be back tomorrow. God bless.
The most original and exclusive Catholic content is on EWTN Radio.
We talk story with each of our very unique guests for the whole hour, so that you can go deep with us as you yourself pursue your own story of heroic virtue and as you pursue intimacy with God.
The Bear Wozniak Adventure, Saturday night, 6 Eastern on EWTN Radio.
EWTN. Live truth.